What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It is Thursday, November 18th, and we head into Week 11 with a historically reminiscent matchup that will feature just like a Super Bowl once did. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman calling a Patriots and Falcons game. We're going to break down all the gambling angles, all the prop angles, all the DFS angles on this podcast. If you want to see the DFS stuff, you have to get that on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. We'll have it exclusively there. We also do live shows Monday, Thursday, and Sunday nights, as well as a Tuesday afternoon mock draft show, and usually Thursdays at 1 p.m. pick show. Obviously, the schedule will change for the holiday, but we will let you know about that. Joining me to break down Pats, the freaking boss. Actually, I'm not going to try to do a Boston accent, but you can do a Boston accent, Tyler Sullivan. Pats at Falcons. What's up, man?
Yeah, it kind of just comes with the territory here. So
yeah. I mean, right. I mean, it's not a judgment thing. I mean, it's like you just speak and that's just how it works.
Yeah. For some reason, because it's weird though, because there are some people that like I grow up with that don't have an accent at all, and then
it is odd.
My brother and my father are worse than me, but it's weird that like some of my best buds like don't have one at all. They're like, "How you doing?" I'm like,
there's a couple words you say that like I never want to say anything when you say it, but I enjoy hearing it. I can't. When I hear it, I'll let you know. But
I'll tell you, it comes out a little bit more when the drinks start flowing for some reason.
Oh, so I'm sure.
There's something in the DNA for a Bostonian.
But that's the Southern thing too. Like you could have I don't really have a huge Southern accent, I don't think, but I have friends that like you start drinking, all of a sudden it's like well, like you get real twangy. Anywho, hey, perfect blend there because the Patriots are visiting the South. They're headed to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Patriots are winners of 4 consecutive games, playing some good football. They have nuzzled up to the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. They are just a half game back of Buffalo with 2 matchups against the Bills left to play. People are getting hyped about Mac Jones. Bill Belichick is chuckling at press conferences. The defense is playing well. And meanwhile, the Atlanta Falcons had creeped their way back into the playoff game and then just got absolutely blistered by the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Humiliating effort for Atlanta, and they fall to the basement of the NFC South, which, if Atlanta could find a way to win this game, would be going into Week 11 with every team above 500. A little surprising plot twist over there down here in the South. What do you think about this game? Patriots are 7-point favorites on the road. Opened up at I think 5.5, and has gotten all the way up to a juice towards the Falcons 7. The total in this one pretty high, 47.5. Sully.
Yeah, I like I like the Patriots. Obviously, I cover them, I follow them, but I like my bank account a little bit more than the local football team here. So I do think that that's a pretty big number for this team, and that's a little surprising to say, even with this being a road short week and all of that, because the Patriots over this winning streak have been outscoring their opponents 150-50. It's just been a remarkable turnaround for this team this season. But when we're looking at it from a betting perspective, I just really like taking the points here with Atlanta, especially after that blowout loss to Dallas. They'll try to get recalibrated, refocused going into this game at home. The Patriots, you're traveling. Yes, they've had a great run over this winning streak, and their defense has been playing great. Mac Jones seems to be getting better every week, but that just feels like a too big of a number. I still like them to win this game, but it's probably a field goal game more than anything.
Yeah, I bet it at and I put it on because I put my bets on Action Network just because we got to track them somewhere. And I bet the Pats at -6, and I like the Pats a lot when I saw 5.5. And I think we talked about it on the podcast on the early odds look ahead, which you can watch on YouTube. We do that on Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings, I guess. I think I said I thought the Patriots we could see that creep out. But it all depended on how the Pats played and how the Falcons played. And so I think that's a bit of the reaction to what we saw. I mean, the Patriots looked dominant and the Falcons got absolutely smoked. New England now has a top 10. They're number 2 in scoring defense. They're top 10 in scoring defense for the 10th year in a row, including this year, first team since the 96 to 2005 Bucks to do so. We can lament Bill Belichick's whether his defense is elite or not, all we want in various years, but it always comes in the top 10 in terms of scoring defense. Patriots are also unbeaten on the road this year, 4-0. The last time they started 5-0 on the road was 2017 when they went to the Super Bowl in Minnesota and lost to Philly. They have never missed the postseason when starting 5-0 on the road and have made the Super Bowl the last 3 times. Of note, they're 5-1 against the AFC this year, 1-2 against the NFC, beat Carolina, lost to Tampa Bay and New Orleans. So trying to go 500 in the NFC South. Mac Jones, 6 wins this season, tied for first all time in Patriots history. Suffice to say, he should hold the record. Of course, Tom Brady wasn't playing as a rookie. Did he? I don't think he started one as a rookie, did he?
No, he appeared in a game, like a game or so, maybe a game.
In 2000, yeah. But then his first start was
against the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, it was after the Bledsoe injury against the Colts. First start was against Manning too. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's probably how those guys lined up for the rest of their careers. The Pats are tied for first in rushing TDs over the last 4 weeks, second in attempts, 144. They are second in the NFL in rushing yards the last 4 weeks with 625, and second in rushing first downs with 41. It should surprise no one that they are 4-0 the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they've been dominating on the ground. Mac Jones continues to be efficient. He's not winning these games for New England, but he's not losing them either. You know, that's a huge distinction. He's not throwing these killer interceptions. He's not turning the ball over. In fact, even when they have turned the ball over, he's actually shown some really nice resiliency to kind of come back in whether it's the Dallas game. I know this is before the winning streak. That's a great example, though. He throws that pick 6 to Trayvon Diggs on the very next play. He throws a touchdown pass, moves the Patriots back into the lead. He's been doing that type of thing throughout the season, even when he makes those mistakes, which is encouraging.
I absolutely agree. I'm just trying to look at what let's see. Let me ask you this before we get to the game itself. Did the Patriots have a 2001 feel to you? We talked about this, didn't we?
Yeah.
We talked about this.
This is the model that I think a lot of people were looking at going into the season. Hey, listen, you have a young quarterback. It's very similar in terms of how you might want to bring up a young Tom Brady in the sense that he's, like I said, not going to win you many football games right out of the gate here, but he'll be able to manage it and move the ball down the field if you set things up for him. He's accurate. He's smart. He knows he's really coming along in the offense quite well. Josh McDaniels has kind of sung his praise in that regard in terms of absorbing what is a very complex offense with the Patriots. And so you have that, and all of a sudden the defense is starting to be opportunistic. I believe that they are either second or third in the league in interceptions this year. I mean, they are just been very good at getting a nose for the football. Matt Judon's just been an unbelievable addition there. Something that I said in the offseason, it reminded me a lot of Stephon Gilmore, a guy that was very good in his previous spot, but felt like, it was a very aggressive addition by the Patriots in a similar sense to Stephon Gilmore, where they feel like they can unlock certain things. He's already, I think, at his career high for a season in sacks, and it's it was week 10 last year. So he's just been last week. He's just been a great addition to this team.
It's when I remember saying at the time of the Stephon Gilmore signing, because Gilmore was a free agent. It's like, man, I love Gilmore coming out of South Carolina when the Bills took him in the first round. And it was, just the way the coaching changes were working. They didn't want to retain him. They didn't want to give him an extension. Like Doug Whaley had fired Rex Ryan, I think, when he became a free agent. At any rate, Gilmore was sort of an under the radar talent who was allowed to hit free agency. And when Bill Belichick made it rain right out of the gate in free agency, that's the first thing that happens. There was a clear cut sign that it's like maybe Stephon Gilmore's better than we all think, and turns out he was. Judon, same sort of thing, a little different coming from the Ravens, where he was actually very similar. I think that's a good call. The Pats are 5th in pass defense DVOA, 13th in rush defense DVOA. The Falcons not quite as good, 30th in pass defense DVOA and 22nd in rush defense DVOA. They're the 31st ranked defense in the NFL. Patriots, the 5th ranked defense by the advanced analytics. So, I mean, look, Matt Ryan was horrendous last week. He put up 0.68 fantasy points for me. That was not great. Great. Kyle Pitts is the leading receiver on this team. Calvin Ridley remains away, working on, dealing with a mental issue. Best of luck to him. It's good that in 2021 you could actually do that, because I don't think you could do that 10 years ago. Or, I don't think it would be treated the same sort of way if you just stepped away from football to work on your mental wellness. Matt Ryan, 0-4 all-time against the Pats, including the Super Bowl. 65.9% completions, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 284.3 passing yards per game. So he's actually been pretty good against the Pats, but just has never managed to beat them. As you like the Falcons +7.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Pats -7. And I understand that it's definitely a donkey play. I would you prefer 6 or 5.5 if you jumped on it early, and that's why you want to bet those early. Don't hate a teaser option for a Thursday night. The over-under, though, is intriguing. And look, I just think it's Atlanta's and it's worth noting the last couple of primetime games. Or not, I guess not the last couple. What do we have on Thursday?
Last Thursday was Dolphins, Ravens.
Right. Okay. So Thursday, Dolphins, huge underdog at home, take care of business against the Ravens. Sunday night, Raiders got railroaded by the Chiefs, but that also was kind of a surprise because I think the Raiders were probably popular. And then on Monday night, everyone thought the Rams were going to kebab the 49ers, and San Francisco absolutely annihilated them. So expecting the Patriots just to come in here and obliterate the Falcons, I think I named like 3 other animals, is a little bit of fool's gold in the sense that not fool's gold, but just be cautious because we've seen these primetime games flip on people. I still think I think the Falcons are so hapless against good defenses and good teams that we won't see Matt Ryan be able to muster much of anything. But the Patriots also might be willing to let the Falcons hang around and come through the back door late. That's entirely possible too. What's your take on the over/under here?
I think this is going to be one of those lower scoring games.
Yeah,
Just because I think that Damian Harris, who's been practicing this week, is going to be back. You saw what Ramondre Stevenson can do in an expanded role, giving the lion's share of carries. If all of a sudden they want to just start rolling with those two, Mac Jones is still somebody who they're not going to just open up the offense for.
Mm-mm.
It's just not how they want to play their game. It's almost very similar to the 49ers in a sense where, yeah, they're going to kind of, move the ball a little bit down the field through the passing game, but their bread and butter on first and second down is going to be to run the football. So to me, that just completely limits your ability to stack a bunch of scoring plays together. I believe, what was it, last week? I know the 49ers had a huge one on Monday in terms of their shoot up a ton of time running the football. I think it was something like 18 plays over 12 minutes or something like that. The Patriots had a similar one against the Cleveland Browns too, where they just completely chewed up clock early in that game.
Yeah.
And so that's what they want to do. They want to, again, it's a little bit different, obviously, from week to week. But if they can all of a sudden just completely drain the clock with one drive, that changes the whole landscape of a total.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of injuries that hashtag matter on this game. In particular, when we're looking at props, and we'll get to those in a second, but Damian Harris maybe we need to push this podcast back to 4. I thought we would get injury reports for 2 East Coast teams who have already practiced and had their coaches talk to the public by the time that we kick this off. And it's literally 3:45 p.m. on Wednesday as I'm talking. And no, Sully, I already looked. They haven't sent him out. I refreshed. Damian Harris was limited on Tuesday with a concussion. Brandon Bolden limited with a hip. Trent Brown limited with a calf. These are all Tuesday injury statuses. Shaq Mason limited with an abdomen. And Jonnu Smith limited with a shoulder injury. On defense, Kyle Duggar, Donta Hightower, Jalen Mills, Kyle Van Noy, Dietrich Wise, Josh Uche, and on special teams, Jake Bailey and Nick Folk. Now, again, all Tuesday statuses. We should be getting the Wednesday statuses pretty soon. What is your sense, watching the team closely on who's going to play and who's not going to play? Ramondre Stevenson played so well against Cleveland, the rookie running back, that it may make sense for Belichick to say, you know what, we're going to keep Damian on ice for another week. Or it may not, actually doesn't matter because it's a concussion.
Yeah.
He'd have to pass the protocol. If he isn't full practice on Wednesday, I think he may be ineligible to play.
Yeah, I think he'll play. I think he'll pass protocol. He was on the practice field this week, like you said, in limited fashion. Jonnu Smith, and I was just reading this from Mike Reese. He was the one who Jonnu Smith made the trip. He is traveling to Atlanta, so it looks like he's going to be back here. Who's someone who I find pretty interesting once we start talking about DFS and first touchdowns and all of that kind of stuff, because they fed him the ball pretty early on, if you remember, all the way back a few weeks ago at the start of this winning streak against the New York Jets. Early in that game before he went down with that injury, they were just feeding him the ball in a very similar sense to Robert Woods with the Rams when there was all this chatter of when he wasn't playing well or wasn't getting involved. very similar there. So I'd be curious to see what it looks like with him back in the fold. But to me, I think you're going to see a lot of these guys back, whether it's Damian Harris, Jonnu Smith. I think Trent Brown probably plays a little bit. They limited him in his return, but he was great, and he was dealing with that calf injury. So they're probably just taking him along slow because he was out basically outside of the opening drive in week 1. He was out up until last week. So again, they're just taking it slow with him, but I expect all those guys to play.
Okay, so you think that this is more of like Belichick? Because Belichick likes to do this sometimes. He likes to spray the injury report with guys who are questionable, and it's probably so he's done it for years, and mostly so sometimes you'd put Tom Brady on
like a non-throwing shoulder thing with Tom Brady. Yeah,
he likes to make life difficult for other teams by being honest on the injury report. Just load it up and let people deal with it. The big one for the Falcons, I think, is Cordarrelle Patterson, who is somehow limited after suffering a kind of a major sprained ankle, or not a high ankle sprain, but an ankle sprain last week. The idea that he could come back and play on Thursday is ridiculous. Arthur Smith said on Wednesday that Patterson will be a true game time decision, which means for Atlanta running back props, Atlanta wide receiver props, first touchdown score and all these different things, those will be dramatically affected, and we probably won't have a whole lot of them. The Hayden Hurst is the other one too. He did not practice on Tuesday with an ankle injury. And I'm curious to see whether that means they slide Kyle Pitts more in line to try and block. But if you do that, then you lose one of your best wide receivers, or, I think how they operate with that game plan. And then the Patterson injury will be very interesting to see what they do.
For sure. And one thing I wanted to bring up here too, because we were talking about obviously the spread and all that. Yes, I like the Falcons with the points here, but if we're talking if you're just a normal average Joe money line guy, you would look at the Patriots in this one, not only because of the winning streak and all this stuff. Bill Belichick this year has been dominating first-year head coaches. He's 4-0 against them, whether it's Brendan Staley, Robert Saleh twice. Who was the other one? It's escaping me at this point, but he's just been absolutely dominating these first-year head coaches this season. So to me, you're looking at another one here with Arthur Smith. I would take that.
The other one would have been... Oh, well, they beat but didn't dominate the Texans. So
sure, yes, okay. So Cully.
I mean, he's undefeated against rookie head coaches. I mean, that's and he's beating up on some young quarterbacks who that's what he does. Matt Ryan, a veteran. Arthur Smith, has had a lot of experience in the league, but is a rookie head coach, and Belichick can take advantage of a lot of different things that people do. So yeah, the injury report is certainly going to inform a lot of what we do. To your point on the Pats money line, you have to lay that. You have to lay 300 to win 100. But the other option might be, let me see if I can find this. If you want to, because also on Thursday night, I don't want to bookmark it. There is a college game. Louisville at Duke. Louisville's minus 1,400. I mean, it only gets it down to like minus 233. So I was hoping to find something where you get it down to like minus 150. Pats and Louisville just have to win on the road, and but Duke's that bad that number is extremely jacked up. So yeah, I mean, I lean under here. The size, the number itself kind of spooks me.
It does. And I do wonder if it's just if we're staring at a Matt Ryan, Mac Jones chucking it all over the field. I believe the last time Mac Jones was at the Atlanta Stadium, I think it's Mercedes Dome Stadium, whatever. Mercedes-Benz Stadium was the 2020 national championship with Alabama. So I don't know if there's something there where he's feeling the old Crimson Tide magic, but I don't know.
Man, yeah, Cam Newton played in State Farm where he won the BCS last week. I'm sure. I mean, look, you win a national title on a field, that field's probably pretty special to you.
Yeah, for sure. So I
wonder. They could open it up, and we'll get to this in the DFS section. I don't mean to go this long with this stuff, but we don't have a ton of props either. So they could open it up against this Atlanta defense and let Mac throw it around. That would not be entirely shocking.
And if Jonnu Smith is fully healthy, again, he reportedly making the trip to Atlanta. That is full Voltron with this offense now, where I think that's what they've wanted to do all along. We've seen Obviously, these past few weeks here, the chemistry between Mac Jones and Hunter Henry has just been off the charts. 2 touchdowns last week, 4 for 4 in terms of their targets. If all of a sudden you can start to get Jonnu Smith rolling, that's something that I think they want to do now. And if this could be this unveiling where, hey, Jonnu Smith's healthy, this is the offense that we want to run on top of the running game. So yeah, I could certainly see that. I just have a really hard time when you run the ball so well and so effectively with Ramondre Stevenson and or Harris, where that's just going to limit a lot of your opportunities, especially on a short week too, where we've seen, I feel like these games have gone under, have been lower scoring.
I need to, one thing that might be worth at least looking back on is, so Belichick, Dean Pease is former Pats defensive coordinator. But after the Pats, he jumped to the Ravens, and then he jumped to the Titans. Then he retired. Then he came back with the Falcons. I may be worth a look to go and see how these Josh McDaniels offenses have performed against Dean Pease's defenses. Something I could have done before the podcast, but didn't think about it until we started. I mean, I'm just sort of, Dean Pease is an aggressive type of defensive coordinator, and I would think, if I'm Dean Pease and I'm the Falcons, I am loading the box. So I sort of wonder if the Pats might say, all right, let's come out and run a bunch of play action early and take some shots down the field to Hunter Henry, to Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, who's flashed a little bit in these last few weeks, and let Mac Jones really get things going, force the Falcons to, sort of abandon their game plan, drop back, and then you lean into it and just pound. And if you do that, you make Matt Ryan one-dimensional, and as we'll get to after the break, focus on one guy who may not be available for certain reasons. All right, so we're both on the under, and I like the Pats. You like the Falcons here. Again, I think it would be 7's a lot on the road in the NFL. Let's take a break. When we come back, player props. So the name I mentioned before is Kyle Pitts. Belichick was asked in his press conference on Wednesday about Kyle Pitts, effusive praise all week long about Pitts. And who can blame him? The rookie wide receiver, the rookie tight end has looked the part, even if he hasn't put up the numbers I think people expected. He is, I believe, a top 5 tight end in fantasy football, which is sort of what people were hoping he could become. I like his under receiving yards, though, Sully, because mainly because I think we have a long history of Bill Belichick saying, I'm going to shut down your best option. And when you have Russell Gage, Lamedius Zacharias, TBD on Cordarrelle Patterson, and if Patterson's there, it maybe changes things up a bit. I think Belichick loves Patterson too. Was he Patterson on the Pats? He was, right?
Patterson, was with the Patriots. I think that was kind of where he was super unlocked in terms of the backfield and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we were all like, oh yeah, like let's let Patterson run. And it's like, oh, he doesn't just have to be a wide receiver. I personally, I love Cordarrelle Patterson as a player. I hate him from his time in college because he ruined NC State's season before it began and basically cost David Amerson $25 million with his performance in that opener. At any rate, I think Kyle Pitts under 63.5 receiving yards. It's come down a lot. It was at like 69.5 or 66.5. If just a couple of stats here to note. When Kyle Pitts, his yards per route run, this is via Ian Hartitz of PFF, his yards per route run against cornerbacks, 1.85, which is 87th among 142 qualified wide receivers and tight ends. When he's against safeties and linebackers, 3.04, which is number 11. So he's been setting up to play better when he's going up against traditional safeties and like a traditional tight end would. When he's matched up against cornerbacks, he's not playing well. Bill Belichick probably knows that. So it is entirely possible we see a cornerback with safety shaded help against Kyle Pitts. The Patriots have allowed the fewest receptions by tight ends this season, 29, and the third fewest receiving yards, 295. Kyle Pitts, third in the NFL among tight ends receiving yards with 606. So I'm not sure if it's a something has to give situation, and I do think Cordarrelle Patterson affects it, but there's a very good chance that Bill Belichick says, you're not beating us with Kyle Pitts, and we only lose this under if it's a sort of a garbage time. Falcons are chasing and just chunking it down the field and he gets open.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that you point out too, like you could maybe put a corner on him and do some safety help over the top. That is kind of something that the Patriots have done in the past when they face these number 1 wide receivers mostly, whether it's like if it was Julio Jones in his prime that they would play, it wouldn't be Stephon Gilmore that's over the top on him, shadowing him for the entire game. Gilmore will shadow the number 2 guy, and then you'd have a J.C. Jackson and McCourty over the top. I'd be curious to see if you have a Jalen Mills, Kyle Duggar kind of combination attack against Kyle Pitts in this game. Duggar's been coming along a little bit. He had that interception.
Duggar's playing good football.
Yeah, he's been playing really well. So I do wonder, and he's been that kind of, or at least has been projected to be that Patrick Chung type of player. Adrian Phillips has also been playing well in the safety spot there as well. So I could totally see them doing something along those lines and leaving J.C. Jackson on an island to just shut down Russell Gage and just make that a living hell for Matt Ryan. Absolutely.
That's what they do is they double up because we would always see like Rex Ryan. And a lot of other defenders are like, all right, we're taking our best guy and putting him on the best option. Belichick almost prefers to take two guys and put it on the best option and then let the top guy go one-on-one against a lesser option. Because, and if you think about it, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey can be, washed out one-on-one occasionally. Good luck beating two guys whose whole job is to stop you.
Right. So to me, that just makes a ton of sense. That's probably, at least you'll see that 75% of the time. There'll probably be an occasion where you'll put, you'll get caught with a linebacker on him. Maybe it's some sort of shakeup and Juwan Bentley's accidentally on him. And sure, you could see that happening. But ultimately, the plan of attack should be a corner or a safety over the top, or however they're going to do it against Kyle Pitts, because that's what Belichick does. You said that. They take away the top option for them. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. For me, we talked a little bit about it. The one thing that I was looking at with Mac Jones, the under, I think you're under on attempts. I'm under on completions for him.
I had written down completions and then attempts popped up, so I swapped.
Sure. I mean, either way for me, because I think that those two, if you're betting one, you might as well bet the other, just because he's been so efficient with his passes. He's completing whatever it is, 17 of 19 for a game or something like that.
He's hit a personal high with 86%, 83%, 82.6% completions last week, 198 passing yards on 23 attempts. Whew. And so he had
and a lot of that was done in the first quarter. That was a lot of that was, whether I think it was 13 of 15 for like 100 and whatever yards. But to me, again, they just don't drop him back a ton. They figure out what Mac Jones does well. Over the first few months of this season, he was dropping back a ton. It was like, just way more than you really want a rookie quarterback to be doing. And over this winning streak, they've kind of figured out where, okay, we can run the ball well. We don't have to expose him this much. We can move the ball kind of a dink and dunk, let him get into a rhythm here type of offense. Over this season, that under on this passing completions with 23.5 has only gone over, I believe, like 3 or 4 times or whatever. Not a lot. It
went over in week 1, week 3, and he had 39 dropbacks.
Yep.
Week 3, he had 51 dropbacks, chasing points against New Orleans. Week 4 that Tampa game was weird, and you can't run against Tampa, so that's a good point there. Against the Jets, it is weird that it went over against the Jets. 24-36. They put up 54 points.
That's because Bill Belichick hates the Jets and just wants to keep piling it on.
You're going to keep passing, and we're going to embarrass the Jets, is what that is.
But the big thing there is 3 of those 4 games where it's gone over have come in the first month.
Correct.
I think that's exactly what you need to look at when you're talking about the Patriots. That stupid expression, the first month is an extension of the preseason. It's dumb because the games actually count, but they do take that time to feel out what their offense does well and what they haven't done well. They were losing over that stretch. They've changed some things up. Mac Jones is not dropping back as much, and they've been winning these football games. I think that's going to continue here on Thursday.
The first 5 weeks of the season, he averaged 38 pass attempts. Over the last 5 weeks of the season, he's at 26.6. That's way down. So, yeah, I think the under on pass attempts and the under on completions is perfectly fine. As I don't even know that. I mean, the one game script where you get screwed is if the Falcons come out like the Niners did on Monday, and Mac is first. That was like maybe he's first to throw. He's forced to throw a bunch of times and drop back a bunch of times as the Patriots are chasing points.
It just depends. That really depends on how the defense responds, because you saw that last week. The Browns came out, immediately punched the Patriots defense in the mouth with an opening touchdown drive where it seemed like they couldn't do any wrong. I mean, Darnell Johnson, I think, piled up like 50 plus yards on that opening drive alone. And then after that, it just kind of all fell apart for them. Defense was able to shut them down. They got a turnover, and it changed the landscape. If that continues, if all of a sudden it turns into a ball game, then sure. But there is obviously a a cause and effect here with the defense as well. If they start shutting them down, they're not going to need to throw the football. They're just going to hand this puppy off and go.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a really good chance that Matt could have 10 or 12 completions in the first quarter, like you talked about against Cleveland, and they get a lead. The defense is playing really well, and it's just the Ramondre Stevenson, Brandon Bolden, maybe Damian Harris show. And if that's the case, I don't really see a path where, I mean, Atlanta can put up some points in garbage time and then maybe have some drives. But if they're forced to just drop back Matt Ryan every single time, and their running game isn't very good either, like if the Patriots get a double-digit lead, it feels like a real possibility for a blowout. To the point about the under before, the two games that concern me are 54-13 over the Jets and 45-7 over the Browns, where those games would have gone over, easily over 47.5, but you wouldn't have felt like it. Like if you told me the Browns scored 7 points, I would have been like, all right, cool, we won that under 45. And that was not the case. Just a thought process there. Also, I have Hunter Henry anytime touchdown plus 210 and Hunter Henry 2 touchdowns in the game 15-1. I love those numbers.
Yeah,
I would bet 10-1 on the 2 touchdowns. Again, it's not likely. It's 10-1. I mean, but I think it's entirely possible that Hunter Henry is just continues to be an efficient red zone weapon for Mac Jones. And as much as Stevenson and Damian Harris can run well in the red zone, you're going to see plenty of pass attempts inside the red zone. That wouldn't be shocking at all. You actually like the over on Henry and Kendrick Bourne receiving yards.
Yeah, for the Henry one, it's a little interesting because it's 30.5. He had that last week. He was 4 for 4 with his targets. He went over that. I think he had like 37 receiving yards. So he's minimally going over. And you talked about it. Huge red zone factor. That's where his bread and butter is made. But there have been some signs over these last few weeks where it's starting to translate in that middle portion of the field outside of the inside of the red zone, where I just feel like it's coming along. That confidence that both of those guys are getting in the red zone is now starting to translate in other areas of the field. There was one throw in the second half last week where Mac Jones dropped back, threw it on a dime.
Oh man, that throw was incredible.
That sideline
unbelievable
throw.
Anticipation too.
It really was. You've seen this a couple of times. He's throwing it before Hunter Henry even makes his break. He knows exactly where he's going to be. And to me, that's the confidence that both of those guys have been building. And it's showing up in the red zone, but I think it's going to start showing up here in the middle of the field. You saw it last week. You saw it in the Chargers game a few weeks back too, where they just connected on an absolute deep bomb. So to me, that's one that I think I'm almost projecting a little bit. I think it's coming at some point that these two are going to really rack up a huge game yardage wise, more than just the red zone attempts.
Well, and Sully gets his numbers usually from the gambling column that he writes on the particular game for CBSSports.com. Go read it, check it out, and you grab those numbers on Tuesday night when you're writing the story from Caesars. The digits for those guys, Hunter Henry's up to 32.5, still juiced 125 to the over. And Bourne up to 33.5. So up a yard there, juiced 130 to the over as well. Wouldn't be surprised really if there's I don't think those numbers are getting up to 40 or anything like that, but I could see 35.5 if it feels like the targets are going to be concentrated on them. And maybe if no Damian Harris, they pass a little bit more early on, just like they did last week.
And one of those things, and the other thing with Bourne too, and Henry to a degree, we're starting to figure out Mac Jones a little bit more. We're starting to figure out who are his guys, quote unquote, in the offense. Who is he looking at? Who does he like the most? Certainly it's Hunter Henry in the red zone, but everywhere else, it's starting to be Kendrick Bourne. It's starting to be Jacoby Myers. Those are the two guys that really have been seeing a ton of action from him. Nelson Aguilar's kind of slowed up a little bit, hasn't been that type of impact receiver that the Patriots have wanted so far, especially down the field. But Bourne has been somebody that Mac Jones has had a lot of success throwing to. He's gone over this total. We'll see if it goes up. But the 32.5, he's gone over that total in 5 straight, 7 out of 10 games this season. They connected on another unbelievable catch and throw for a touchdown, 23 yards last week against the Browns. Their relationships are building as Jones is feeling more comfortable in his rookie season. So to me, those two guys are trusted options. I think he's going to keep throwing them, especially on a short week where maybe there's not so much game planning and they're just kind of, all right, let's go with what we know.
Yep, I tend to agree with that. All right, first touchdown wise, there's not a lot out there because of what we have, the issues that we have with the running backs, right?
Yeah.
There's no Cordell Patterson on there. There's no Damian Harris on there. There is Jacoby Myers 8-1. I love it. It's like finally he scores a touchdown and now he's 8-1 to be the first touchdown scorer. What are we doing here? Maybe finds the end zone again though. Who knows? Mike Davis, positive touchdown regression and whatnot. Mike Davis 8.5-1. Please don't bet on that. Kyle Pitts 9.5-1. Again, love Kyle Pitts. Have him in fantasy. Need him to do well. Don't think he will. I think they'll double cover him in the red zone. Hunter Henry is now 10-1 for first touchdown. I like him at double digits. It just wouldn't be shocking. Look, you can easily get Ramondre Stevenson going in there or Damian Harris. Maybe something weird happens with the Falcons as well. But Kendrick Bourne 12-1, Russell Gage 15-1, Olamide Zacchaeus 17-1. No thanks.
No.
Mac Jones 22-1. Is he even running the ball?
No. And I saw his rushing totals were like 4.5. I'm like, I'm not gonna bet this, but why would you even put that up? Like, it's not like he's not running around. I think he's run like once or twice this year, so it's not like that one. I don't love either. But
against the Saints, he had 6 carries for 28 yards. He's gone over that number 3 times. Against the Jets, 3 for 19, and the Chargers 4 for 10.
I've watched him. I've watched every snap of him this season. He's not running. They're not running the football. It's more, if anything,
he maybe has to scramble and break contain.
Right. That's right. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. When the offensive line was in shambles, he's running for his life a little bit more. Now that Trent Brown's back, I think things are going to be solidified a little bit more. They're not having him run the football at all. I do find it interesting though with Henry. Like, don't you feel like him and Myers should be swept with odds, if anything? Like,
Hunter Henry should be like 7 or 5-1 or 6-1. I think the way he's just been targeting the red zone is crazy.
The only thing that I can think of, because I was scratching my head, is like, why is he 11-1 or 10-1 now? And the only thing I can think of is just, do they think it's just odds are it's just not going to continue? Are they just playing the odds where they're like, hey, listen, they're not going to throw to him every single game. He's not going to score 17 touchdowns this season. I'm sure, I guess, but what we've seen so far. That was like
his thing in San Diego and Los Angeles is he was a red zone behemoth, and now he's got a quarterback who, and I guess Mac Jones not necessarily used to throwing to tight ends in the. I'm trying to think. I mean, who did he have as tight end? No, really at Alabama, right? He had Devontae.
It was Devontae and Waddle.
Waddle, yeah. I don't think Mac Jones may have been in the red zone like 3 times last year. It's like they just scored on bombs, or they would just. They would just give it to Najee Harris and let him do the dirty work. So yeah, I mean, I think I would be interested in looking at Ramondre Stevenson, but I'm guessing he comes in at something around 6.5-1, depending on Damian Harris. Actually, on my hashtag my local, I may have.
Does your local have Brandon Bolden at all, or does Caesars have Brandon Bolden? I don't know if I saw him on there.
Did Caesars did not have Brandon Bolden, right? Let me.
I think they took out the whole backfield just to cover themselves.
I was surprised that they still have this up on mine because usually that stuff gets taken down. Oh, Damian Harris 5.5-1, Ramondre Stevenson 6-1, Cordell Patterson 9-1, Jacoby 10, Hunter Henry 10, Mike Davis 11. Kyle Pitts 12. Wow, that's actually probably a better. Brandon Bolden 13.
I don't love 13, but.
JJ Taylor 17. What are we doing?
Yeah, no. Like if Brandon Bolden was 17, I'd be like, all right, well, you know what? He gets some red zone opportunities there. He's somebody. He's their third down guy. He's their James White. So whatever you thought of James White in the red zone, there's Brandon Bolden's kind of that same odds.
New England defense at 25-1. I don't hate.
No.
I would add that if we never get defenses on Caesars. If you have New England defense at 25-1 or better, I would probably sprinkle on that. But I mean, that you're asking for a lot there. The JJ Taylor, these are just a joke how low they are.
Yeah,
Hunter Henry's going to get down to 8-1. I should probably go ahead and bet Hunter Henry.
Yeah, Hunter Henry's again the one that makes the most sense. We both have him. He scored 7 touchdowns this season. 4 of them have come in this winning streak. 2 of them last week. Yeah. They're firing on all cylinders in terms of the red zone. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but their red zone efficiency over this winning streak has just been absolutely night and day better as to what they did starting the season. I think just for the first 6 games, again, these numbers are roughly the numbers, but it was around 44% conversion rate in the red zone over the first 6 weeks. Now it's over like 70-something percent, 76% in the red zone. It's just been off the charts good, and that's really been the Hunter Henry effect.
Yeah, and Hunter Henry inside the 10 this season, 6 targets, 4 catches, 4 touchdowns.
Pretty good.
He gets open, they go to him, they have plays designed for him. Inside the 20, 10 targets, 6 catches for 38 yards. I mean, this is a guy he's getting 31%. Oh man, he's getting 31.6% of the passing targets inside the 10-yard line. So I mean, it's either
pretty healthy share.
If you think the Patriots are going to score first, and there's tons of reason to believe that as 7-point road favorites, Hunter Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, and then depending on if Damian Harris is in there, I mean, you could just load up on those three guys and hope it's not a bomb to Kendrick Bourne or something.
Yeah. The only thing that I would point out too, and I don't want to get too much into coin toss, conversations, but the Patriots, if they ever win that thing, they always defer to the second half.
That's a good point.
So that would mean that the Atlanta Falcons would get the ball to start. There is that thing to think about there as well. So maybe there's a Kyle Pitts route.
Well, and I would guess
defense.
too that if the Falcons win, they'll defer because everyone knows that the Patriots defer.
Right, which I think is so stupid. Like if you want the ball first, don't play Jedi mind tricks. Just take the ball. But that's all.
I'll try and play 4D chess with Belichick.
Exactly.
By the way, Hunter Henry tied third overall in the NFL in touchdowns from inside the 20, and very high up there in terms of target percentage as well for guys who qualify. You're not counting like, man, some of these guys get tons of targets inside the 20. Anywho, that's it for we go on the props. We got all the props in there. A little bit longer than usual, but that's because it's Falcons Patriots hate week.
Yeah. I love the Falcons tweet at halftime against the Cowboys.
We get it.
We get it. We know.
28-3. Yes, please don't tweet us and let us know. All right. If you want to check out what we have to say about DFS, pop on over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/pick6. That's it for the audio show. Thanks for listening. Talk to you guys later. So, I got to tell you, this DFS is something funky. Like, I don't really want to. So, let's just dive into it. The captains. Captain prices on DraftKings. Matt Ryan, 16-2. Remember when who do we have it? Lamar at 20K or something?
Yeah, it was like 2,100 or something, 2,300.
Mac
like
Jones,
23,000,
yeah. Mac Jones, 15-9. Cordero Patterson, 15-3. Kyle Pitts, 14-4. Damian Harris, 13-2. Ramondre Stevenson, 12-9. Wayne Gallman, 12-6. Forgot about Wayne Gallman. I guess if Patterson's out, I don't have any interest. I mean, anyway.
That's the fantasy football today, guys. The Gallman. They
always like Gallman. Jacoby Myers, 12K even. Kendrick Bourne, 11-4. Hunter Henry, 10-5. Russell Gage, 9-9. And then we get to the backup quarterbacks, none of whom are particularly enticing. Josh Rosen, Felipe Franks, Brian Hoyer, Jarrett Stidham, Garrett Gilbert. What a list that is. Mike Davis, 8-7 after that. And then Patriots defense, Olamide Zaccheaus, Nelson Aguilar. And you move on down the list until you get to the kickers and the Falcons defense, who you'd have to be insane to play. But maybe not. Maybe a Falcons defense wins this one. Never know.
That could,
49ers defense on
it's true.
On Monday. I mean, and nobody was playing them.
Not out of the realm of possibility. Was Miami's defense certainly in the conversation?
Scored, yeah. They were in the optimal. I don't know if they were. I don't think it was captain wasn't the optimal. Yeah. But I mean, that's just something to consider. If you have the Falcons defense and they score they house a kick or block a kick to the box or pick six or whatever it is, safety, scoop score. I mean, you'll be very different from a DFS perspective. I mean, I got to tell you, when I start thinking about a captain for this, I drop all the way down to Ramondre. And again, this depends on Cordero Patterson playing, depends on Damian Harris playing. But Ramondre Stevenson at 12-9 is extremely intriguing. And so is Hunter Henry at 10-5.
I was going to say, I think that Stevenson and or Harris, whoever's active, will be very chalky because I think a lot of people are going to do the same thing. I would go that step further down to Hunter Henry, not only to get the savings, but to try to get away from the chalk. I think that, he's somebody like we're talking about Stevenson and Harris as red zone touchdown guys. You can say the same exact things like we were saying on the podcast with Hunter Henry. So if I can still have that huge exposure to the red zone, have those savings, and possibly have less ownership at the captain spot, I'm going with that every single time.
So we've seen it a lot this year where, and I've read this. I think Cody Manning pointed it out for Establish the Run, but he does all the showdown stuff over there. Highly recommend subscribing to it. But he pointed out that the field largely has started to get away from quarterbacks at the captain position, acknowledging that, despite, it's like, it depends on the game, of course, right? We see plenty of these quarterbacks who still have high percentage captainship, but in certain situations where it's like, all right, like, Mac is going to be efficient, but it's probably not going to be bombing it all over the place. And Matt Ryan, nobody believes in the Falcons right now. You don't want to have one of those guys as your captain's pick because it eats up a ton of salary. So I think there is a little bit of like, I will definitely play some Mac Jones at captain just because I think there's a chance he does come out and have a big game early on. And I do, we sort of referenced it before, but I think there's a chance Belichick and Josh McDaniels would like, they're going into a stretch of football games where they are about to play. So they play Atlanta, Tennessee, Buffalo
twice,
and then they have their bye. I think they would love to have a really confident Mac Jones put on film some of the stuff they can do by being throw first and not letting teams, just crowd the box. So it wouldn't shock me if Mac Jones had a big game, but if it's a blowout, it's going to be hard to, get those points later in the second half. So I'm with you. I like Hunter Henry is my favorite option at the captain's position. Breaking news as we're recording this. Too bad we didn't get on the podcast. Damian Harris will play.
Okay, so that might change our captaincy a little bit, or at least this lineup a little bit. I mean, I know I like Henry, but and again, I do think that just because he's cleared to play here and he did practice in a limited fashion, I don't think that immediately eliminates Ramondre Stevenson from like lineup contention here. We could still
actually, I would go the other way. I would say that I am more likely to play Ramondre Stevenson at captain with the news that Damian Harris is back, because most people will not want to take on the number 2 running back as a captain.
Yeah.
But in a blowout situation, I would expect Ramondre Stevenson's getting way more run than Damian Harris.
I don't even think it really takes that, to be honest with you. I don't think it takes a blowout for Ramondre Stevenson to get in this game. They were already Damian Harris was the lead guy. He was getting the primary goal line touches and all that stuff. But Stevenson was getting playing time way before this breakout start last week. There was a feature, there was somewhat of a role there for him. He caught, I think, the game prior to last week, he caught 4 of his 5 targets for 41 yards or something like that. He had a big 41-yard gain in that play.
Yeah, he was 2 of 2 on targets and catches, and he had 10 against Carolina, 10 carries, 62 yards, blowout win over Carolina.
Sure.
He's averaging this guy's averaging 6.2 yards per. He's been playing well.
Yeah,
but he's been given the opportunity.
I'm not fading away from him at all for this Damian Harris news. I'm much more intrigued with low ownership and all those things that you just said. So to me, no, Harris makes a lot of sense here, whether it's captaincy or in this roster. I think he's going to be someone who sneakily is, he'll have some ownership. I think, it's not that crazy of a leap to say that they'll share some duties here, especially with a limited week from Harris on a short week. But yeah, no, I'm interested here.
Yeah. And Damian Harris, man, what is he now? So he's 13-2 for a captain. He's still more expensive than Ramondre Stevenson, but only $300.
Yeah.
So the majority of the field believes that Damian Harris will get the majority of the carries. There is some value there for in going with Ramondre Stevenson. We could also say, all right, we're going to go with Hunter Henry at the captain, Mac Jones. I mean, this is a Patriots onslaught, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. And the question is, what do you want to do with the final 2 spots? I think if you're doing that, you probably need to include the Patriots defense, which leaves you the option of Olamide Zaccheaus as your final spot, or Mike Davis if you believe he's going to catch a bunch of passes. I don't really want to be involved in Olamide Zaccheaus.
Yeah, I don't really want to, because he had like 2-catch game with 2 touchdowns. Like I don't know if I want to roll that die. I mean, this is accounting for, it's like similar to last week where it's 35-6. And the Falcons can't do anything. The Patriots defense shows up in a big way on national television, knowing that they get a mini bye. If you get a mini bye going to 2 huge AFC games. You cannot overlook. Another team I might be worried they overlook this with the schedule coming up. I think Belichick is like, look, let's go down here and take care of business. Do what you need to do. Everyone do your job. And we can come out of this with 10 days of rest, Titans and Bills on the other side. We're in first place in the AFC, East going into the weekend. So that's just basically Mac tosses a couple TDs to Henry. Harris and Stevenson pound the ball. Pat's defense is just, limits completely what the Falcons do. And then you have one guy who's not Kyle Pitts catching passes is sort of where I'm at with that one.
Do you want to clear it, go back to Henry, and take us a different direction?
No, I like that. Again, if you're doing the Patriots onslaught thing, I almost wonder too if you want to get weird with it. If we're talking about Henry captain spot, just to we talk about they're fading away from the quarterbacks. Well, if you think Henry's going to have a big game, the only way he's going to have a big game is if Mac Jones is throwing him the football. So I almost wonder if you kind of weirdly pivot to the quarterback, which is
that's what I was saying before. Like, I like a Mac Jones captain idea.
So maybe let's try that. Again, if you think that if Henry's going to have one of these big, have another 2 touchdown game, I mean, it's totally not out of the realm of possibility that they continue to go into him. I mean, we talked about the volume that they share. It's just insane. So we could go Mac Jones and Henry. Maybe we stick with, maybe we go with Ramondre, or do you want to go with Harris? Which one? Do we keep both? I almost want to see if we can fit in a Kyle Pitts at some point.
So let's go. So go Hunter Henry here. So we add Hunter Henry. You're basically have to make. I think you can make a Pitts. I just feel like they're going to shut Pitts down. 9-6, but you might give him a flex. Let's see. So you could do a Mac Jones, Hunter Henry, Kyle Pitts. Oh yeah. Ramondre, and then the 2 kickers.
Sure.
You can get. I mean, you can get a Patriots. That's a 4-2. That'll probably be the most popular build. 4 Patriots, 2 Falcons, or 3-3, 3-3, and then 4-2 Patriots Falcons will be the most popular. Is it Norton or should be Youngway and Folk, right? Oh, if Folk's hurt,
Folk. I think Folk's fine now.
He had a knee injury, but I mean, clear out Norton and put in Folk. They're the same price.
There is one guy that I do think that we should at least bring up. I don't know if we want to throw him in lineups or whatever, but just someone to keep an eye on. Jonnu Smith is someone who we mentioned on the podcast is making the trip, seems to be healthy, missed the last few games due to a shoulder injury, but before he went down against the New York Jets back right at the start of this winning streak, they were making it a point to go to him, to feature him, to get him going as somebody, in this offense. It was a remark, like it was a noticeable. I was at the game. It was very noticeable that they were just like, hey, listen, we paid a ton of money with this guy. He was the first tight end, first real free agent that we targeted in this crazy offseason in terms of our spending spree. Hasn't lived up to that big billing quite yet. We're going to just start feeding him and see how it goes against the New York Jets, mind you. But I do wonder if all of a sudden, now that he's healthy, he's making the trip, are they just going to pick up?
He played in week 8 and week 9, but then he was out week 10, but he was limited in both those weeks, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was not.
He's clearly he got banged up against the Jets, and he had 2 catches for 52 yards on 5 targets.
And then he was running the football a little bit too. They were using him in a way where you're like, okay, this is exactly kind of what we thought it was going to be, this H-back kind of role for him in a, Aaron Hernandez-y kind of way that they had him go during his heyday with the Patriots. So to me, I'm curious to see what he'll do. I almost wonder if he'll be in an optimal.
Chris, take out Patterson, and toss in who's Patterson? And toss in Youngway Q at 4K. Take out Folk. Because I can see a situation where Folk doesn't make the optimals if the Pats just score touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then you have the ability, scroll down a little bit. We should be able to get Jonnu. I think he's 2-4. So you could go Jonnu there. Yeah, actually,
he's a cheap option that I think is interesting.
Salary on the table. But the other thing to point out too, and X out Jonnu really quickly. We'll come back to him, but and then scroll up. So there's not. So we see JJ Taylor there at. Scroll down just a little bit. Sorry. JJ Taylor at 1,000. Hayden Hurst, we don't know if he'll be active at 1,800. Jonnu Smith at 2,400. Now we're going to go up a little bit because there's no one down there. There's no cheap salary relief, but it's fairly loose up top, so you can kind of get everybody you need to without worrying about it. Like who are we? We're sacrificing Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne and the Falcons wide receivers here. Obviously, we have Pitts. But, there's no real major salary relief down low, right? Unless I'm missing somebody.
There's no Stone Cold Mints as
we've. I mean, everybody. It's all IR. Devin Asiasi, who's just not. I mean, he's not seeing any run. No. Matt Lacoste, same deal. Matt Slater, special teams guy. I mean, I guess you would. Knowing that, I guess if Matt Slater, you're not playing Matt Slater. I'm trying to think what would happen if he housed a kick.
No, he doesn't really have that. He's not that guy.
Yeah, he's not. He just doesn't screw it up back
The
there.
only one that if you're thinking along those lines, it'd be Gunnar Olszewski. Like he's the guy
Olszewski,
that,
yeah.
and he's 200. So I mean, he's somebody who's been back at practice. He missed last week due to a concussion. They clearly missed him in the punt return duties. So I mean,
But you could also just play like there's just almost no lineup construction you need where you get, unless you think it's just a purity shootout.
Yeah.
You know, then you don't really have to worry about it. I mean, honestly, N'Keal Harry might be it at 600.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
you don't feel good about that at all.
He had a really great game, like last week in terms of he was really commended by a ton of the coaching staff with his role in the blocking game, but that doesn't really help you in DFS. So he's been coming along, he's been having his moments. Sure, could he?
If he plays and he's like 40-1 to catch a first touchdown, I might throw him that.
Sure, I mean,
because you could see him posting up against a Falcons cornerback in the red zone as they double down on Hunter Henry or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, but for DFS, it's just that's a little too risky for someone who just hasn't shown it so far. And yeah, he had a really great game blocking, but again,
if we were dealing with a situation where
you changes the scoring rules, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Well, and again, it's like we use the second most expensive captain on the slate. And take it and look, we left $4,300 on the table with Harry. Like, I'm going to pay up. We can X out Harry, and we're going to go get somebody else. Let's see, scroll up. And I mean, we mentioned Jonnu, and then you could also go Brandon Bolden, Nick Folk. If you like, I don't have a problem with getting both kickers in here.
Sure, it's fine.
Like, I don't think the Pats will be kicking a ton, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Folk had 2 or 3 field goals.
But if you lean under, I mean, there's a path there where you're like, all right, well, it's there's not going to be a lot of scoring. Maybe these defenses are playing a little bit better, or just these offenses are a little shoddy in a short week where, all right, you can't really execute as well as you want to. Let's just boot it.
Yeah, Patriots don't move the ball quickly. It turns into a field goal fest. Younghoe Koo and Nick Folk have been 2 of the best kickers. Like you feel confident they're going to stripe home most of the kicks that they take. Okay. So those are the other. What's the other lineup I looked at? Oh, I had a Ramondre Stevenson lineup.
Yeah.
Where let's see, what is it? So all right, let's clear that out too. Just throw a Ramondre lineup in there as well. Now that Damian Harris is back, because let's see. So go Ramondre Stevenson right there at 12.9. And again, you can, if you have Ramondre, do you think you need Damian Harris as well?
Yeah, no, I don't think you need it, but no, I don't think you need it. No, I don't.
Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with it per se.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't think that it's like you're screwing yourself if you throw in both of those running backs. I think that they're both get some work, but I think if you really want to try to get unique, yeah, you go a little bit away from Stevenson, just because now that we know that he's cleared, it's going to split up the ownership one way or another. I don't know who's going to have the most and who's not. It's probably going to be Harris who has the majority, but it helps you have a more unique lineup because it's not just this one sole guy in the backfield now. So that helps
for sure. Let's tell us, what did I do? I did Ramondre, Mac Jones, Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, we're completely crapping all over Matt Ryan in this entire, like, he is a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback who has played well against the Patriots. Belichick is not going to throw a bunch of junk at him that confuses him. He's going to be able to diagnose plays at the line of scrimmage in a way. We've seen these veteran quarterbacks, they can be stymied by Belichick for sure, but like way more likely that Baker Mayfield can't figure out what's going on than Matt Ryan.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, it's not like he's facing Baker Mayfield, whether it's Mike White or Zach Wilson. It's very different with Matt Ryan.
Right. Just looking at it, fairly quickly, held the Dolphins to 16, held the Jets to 6. We're talking about younger quarterbacks there. The Saints scored 28 on them, but anyway.
There was a pick 6 in there. That was a different game.
Bucks, crazy weather. Texans, some of Davis Mills had success against them. Dak had success against them. And then it was Jets. So again, you got, Mike White. Was that even Mike White? Was it Mike White or was it?
It was the game Mike White came in. Zach Wilson got hurt. Mike White came in.
Right. So Mike White, Justin Herbert, second-year quarterback, Sam Darnold. We know about his history with Belichick, and then Baker Mayfield. So all these guys are younger quarterbacks who just don't have the same experience playing against this crazy sort of fronts that Belichick throws up and the disguises he builds into his coverage. So there may be something to the idea that Matt Ryan, who will not be a popular captain at all, could actually perform. I think he'll be pretty like fairly low owned, maybe. I mean, it may be so easy to get him in that people don't do that. But I also added in Pat's defense and the 2 kickers.
Don't hate that.
Yeah.
How much you leaving on the table there, or is that pretty much?
I don't think much.
Yeah.
So Falk and Q.
1,700. That's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not crazy. And you could go up, X out the Pats and just see what see who we could grab, the Pats defense there. So you could go get Hunter Henry as well if you wanted to pair a pass catcher with Matt. I mean, that might be the chalkiest line.
I was going to say, it's pretty chalky.
Unless the Damian Harris who drives everybody off from Andre.
Yeah. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like I said, it's going to split it one way or another if you're on the right side of that thing, because there's 2 schools of thinking, right? It's, oh, Stevenson had a huge week last week. They're just going to keep riding them, especially with Damian Harris limited, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. I'm going to go with Ramondre Stevenson. Or you say, well, Damian Harris is a little bit fresher. He's, he didn't play last week. Stevenson on a short week. He's a rookie, had 20 carries last week. Maybe they try to take a little bit of that pressure off of him, especially as they go into this long break. I mean, you could, or it's just, Steve.
Hayden Hurst is out for the game.
Okay. I mean, we didn't throw him in on anything yet, but
no. But I think that matters for, like, he's a good, like, that hurts their blocking. It may change Kyle Pitts' situation. And he was cheap at $1,800. I think he was showing up in optimals mainly because
of how cheap he was. Yeah.
So people needed somebody cheap to get in there. So yeah, I like that lineup. I'll actually enter that lineup before I forget, because I will definitely not enter that lineup later. Let's see, 2 kickers too. Okay. What about the Costanza lineup? Because there is definitely Costanza lineup potential.
Oh, huge lineup. Costanza. It's Matt Ryan, probably captain. Is that? I mean, that's probably.
I think I built one. I had Pitts as captain, but Matt Ryan works fine.
Yeah, no, I can go with Pitts. Sure. I think that's probably. Well, I don't know. Which one do you think is going to be less owned in terms of the captaincy?
Probably Matt Ryan, because he's 16-2. Yeah. If you wanted to go Falcons. All right, so go Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts. And I'm working. I had in this case, I actually went with Russ Gage and Zacchaeus. In other words, this is just Matt Ryan comes out and shreds the Patriots defense.
Yeah.
Which is the Costanza lineup. Like, we are not expecting that to happen. And then I think, so if you're going to go all those pass catchers for the Falcons, you have to bring it back with Mac Jones and somebody.
You can bring it back with Mac Jones and JJ Taylor.
Yeah, that was the bring back I had.
Yeah. You could do that.
I wonder, let's get rid of Zacchaeus there, actually, and go grab a better pass catcher up top for Mac Jones. Like, we could do Hunter. Yeah, Hunter. How much do we have left? You
can't do Hunter.
Scroll down. What about Jonnu?
I would do. Yeah, Jonnu would be interesting.
All right, let's do Jonnu and see because he's still questionable. Obviously, keep an eye out that and then that leaves us 4-6, which
you're in kicker territory. You're in Falcons.
You got 3.
You're in Falcons defense territory too. I mean, if we're going,
that's weird. The ultimate. Yeah, that's the ultimate one right there. You could also go. You could go Younghoe Koo, because in this case we're thinking Falcons.
Yeah,
and you could, in theory, now ditch Jonnu Smith and get the Falcons defense. No, 3,400. You need 3,400. Yeah, just go back to Jonnu.
That is quite the lineup we have there.
Right, I mean, nobody wants to play that. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what happens in this scenario where it's just like Mac dumping it down to Jonnu over and over and over again. And the foul. I mean, the one thing about this lineup that doesn't really work is that you almost feel like if the Falcons are going to roll like this, they would need to have a
running back needs to be in there to kind of offset it. And I almost feel like we need like.
Why don't we ditch Kyle Pitts for Cordero Patterson?
Sure.
Because like Kyle Pitts is awesome, but there's a lot of paths to win for the Falcons where Kyle Pitts doesn't do anything.
That's fine.
Yeah, there we go. Ooh, $0 remaining. So in other words, it's just the Falcons offense moves the ball really well, limit what the Patriots do, and force the Patriots to pass. Yeah. Of course, it doesn't look appealing at all.
No, I was trying to think of who we could move around
to get a Pats running back.
No, I was gonna say to get like a Bourne or an Aguilar, someone who was a little bit more involved in terms of the passing game.
Well, can we take out Jonnu and Russell Gage?
Well, I almost wonder if we can move off of Ryan and whoever we think his primary pass catcher is going to be, get the savings over there.
You could do Cordell Patterson as a captain. I mean, given his
that.
injury stat, he is not going to be owned.
Yeah.
And then you can pivot to Kyle Pitts if he doesn't play. So if Patterson's ruled out, so switch go. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It doesn't feel like that's got enough juice to it. So X out Ryan there and Patterson. Oh, sorry, now it flipped you back. Hold on. Now you got to go back to click the captain tab. It's really annoying. So Patterson, does that save enough? And then Ryan, it might. We got Mack and Youngway. Got 9,300, so we could go Bourne at 7,600 or Myers or Hunter Henry. 7,000 leaves you with Hunter Henry leaves you more than enough, right?
Yeah.
So for 2,300, we got. You can actually go Jonnu, right?
You could go back to Jonnu, I think, right?
Oh, just missed it.
Stop.
Have to be JJ Taylor. Or, all right, actually, you know what? X out Patterson as the captain. Sorry, and we'll plug in Pitts because I think Pitts is cheaper. Yeah. So then we can go Jonnu there as the tight end, the other tight end in flex.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. I mean, that one to me is a little bit more interesting, a little bit more. It makes a little bit more sense in terms of the game script, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all tight ends and it's 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks and a kicker. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Josh McDaniels would love it.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's hard to talk yourself into a Falcons bloodbath in this game.
Yeah.
It just is. Like, mentally, it's hard to get yourself there, but it's entirely possible the Falcons win, cover, destroy. I mean, I don't think it's likely, but it can certainly happen. So what we see? I'm just trying to think what the projected point total is on this one. And I mean, look, maybe Pitts lines up. Maybe they got a plan for Pitts where they line him up all over the place. Move. Jonnu Smith is certainly shot up in the optimals just because of the fact that he's now. I think he's trending towards active, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, completely fading the Patriots running backs seems dangerous, but whatever.
Yeah, that seems like a fool's errand. But again, like we were saying too, that number seems a little bit fishy in terms of the total too.
Sure
so
does.
I
actually no. Oh yeah, and you could actually do Nick Folk as your. Oh, do we have a 3-3 there right now?
Right now we have a 3-3.
3-3. Yeah, you could go 4-2 Patriots with Nick Folk and do 78, or see what happens if we plug in Koo. Where is he? Can't see anything for some reason. Oh, there he is. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at something that falls in line. 76.4 projected points using Fantasy Labs, 78 with Nick Folk, and even the optimals where you clear out, you eliminate you just eliminate let the computer do the work for you. I think it's checking in at so I'm gonna take out both defenses because they don't project very. Or I'm gonna take out Wayne Gallman. You got to clear 2, just optimize it and see what it does. It spits out an 83.1 with Mac Jones as a captain and 5. Yeah, I mean, so in other words, this lineup is projecting about the same as what will be a more popular lineup.
Right.
And you just need a couple of things to break your way in order to that would be how you differentiate yourself and try to win big is you lean into the Falcons and it actually works and everybody else has all these Patriots and they're just not getting if everybody has Ramondre and Damian Harris in their lineups and the Patriots running game isn't working and they're playing catch up, this is a much better spot to be.
You're seeing a lot more Bolden. I mean, that's kind of what we've seen in the past where it's, all of a sudden it turns into this shootout and it's Tom Brady not going to LeGarrette Blount or Sony Michel or whoever it is. It's James White.
Ooh, actually, we can get rid of Koo and go Bolden there too.
I like that. I don't mind that at all.
So you get rid of the kicker and go scroll up to 4,800 Bolden, I think. Yep. And obviously, check to see if he's active. Huh. I don't mind that at all.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get yourself to 5 Falcons.
Yeah.
Pretty tough. But you never know. Weird things happen in football games. The 5-1 49ers would have been a lot better than using a bunch of Rams. All right. That'll do it. Lengthy little podcast here, but that's fine. It's getting dark early here. Man.
Gets dark crazy around here. It's already
just
like
insane. Yeah,
it's
it's
already
like
dark.
5:30, just pitch black dark outside.
It's
All right,
insane.
Sully, always a pleasure, buddy. We will talk to you on Monday.